rough grade in with your fines on top and a rake out. And it's okay if the 3/4 inch mixes with your fines. We're just doing a skim layer. As more grading happens, those will get pushed down as it gets compacted. So here, which we're doing a mock sand trap, which we're going to use a white rock. We're building out the area where that's going to go. And as we compact this, a lot of it will compress and we may have to reshape. So it's important to leave about 1/2 of a yard of your fines left over to work with to do some molding. So our next step is we're going to start using our 4-foot level and basically treating this like we're, finishing concrete. We're going to start screeding and leveling out our fines. This is the upper tier area here, which you can see we've got the rough shape, and we're just going to start working backwards, drawing with the across the top to make sure all of that area is smooth on our hands and knees. We'll just keep working backwards to smooth all of this out. Then we can wet it down and get ready for compaction. So we want to take our 4-foot aluminum level and we're going to start working in a fan pattern. And the reason why we do this is that we can then see from a ground level areas that are too high or missing material. As the level goes over it, it will start to pick up areas that have too much and indicate where there's not enough. And then you can slowly start to either pull those materials to you or push them away. But what it does is it ensures that within that 4-foot radius or fan that you've achieved a level area. It also allows you to see from a ground level if things are too high or missing, and you can do your sculpting from a better level than you can from when you're standing above. Now that we've achieved a level grade and some basic sculpting with our 4-foot level, the next step will be to soak or get the whole entire area wet so that we can prepare for compaction. So what we want to do is just get a sprayer or a hose with a sprayer nozzle that we can put on a shower and just saturate the whole area. After we've let the water soak in for about 15 minutes or so, depending on the ambient temperature out, how dry it is, we're gonna let this soak into the material for about 15 minutes, and then we'll get ready for compaction. It's important to soak the area very good and allow ample time for the moisture to get down through the material, because if only the top is wet and the bottom is still dry, it will cause clumping on the bottom of your compactor, and as you continue to compact, you'll have very deep grooves in your surface base material, and then you'll have to scrape that off from the compactor and then go back and refinish those areas. So it's important to look for those grooves starting to happen before you do a whole entire area. After we've let the area soak for about 15 minutes or so, and again, this is really dependent upon the ambient air temperature. Obviously, if it's the middle of summer and it's hot and dry out, the water is going to evaporate much faster. Same if it's cooler and really damp out. So I let this sit for about 15 minutes. And really what we're looking to achieve with the compactor is just a very smooth, almost granite-like finish. And eventually when this dries, it will become hard as a rock. Now, there's areas like this here, which on a putting green can and will telegraph to the surface. So we'll show you a little tip or trick afterwards on how to fill these in minus the rocks. So what we're going to do is continue to compact this whole entire area. Be careful, try not to walk on this area and dig into it. But what we'll do is we'll come back and knock these ridges down with a hand tamp, and then we'll get to adjust this brake and see what it's going to turn out like after all of the air has been compressed out of it and the material's been compressed. So we'll get back with you shortly. As you can see, we've done our compaction with the compactor vibratory plate. And what you're going to notice is quite a few ridges and humps, and that's because the sides of the compactor are rounded, and obviously it's a heavy item and it causes the material to bump up. And these ridges can be knocked down using a steel hand tamp, 10 by 10, 12 by 12. And what you do is you go through and you tap on these areas to knock them down and smooth out any of these ridges that are exposed. Then from there, there's another technique in which we'll demonstrate, in which we use a trowel. So here, we just follow along, tamping as we go, leveling out the areas where there's ridges and knocking those down. And we'll do that everywhere. As you can see, we've knocked down a lot of these ridges with the hand tamp. And a lot of these areas that are open and exposed, we'll show you how to fix those momentarily. Now, it's important to pay attention as you are starting to hand tamp, and what you want to look for areas where you've tamped but then you have basically pockets or divots left, and that is because the wet material is sticking to the bottom. So what we want to do is be cognizant of that and check it periodically and have something that you can scrape all of that. Essentially what it's become is like peanut butter, and you want to be able to scrape that off and try to keep that as clean as possible, and then get that back into your divot areas to smooth them out. But we'll show you how to fix these larger pockets shortly. But again, just make sure you're checking this as well as your compactor vibratory plate to make sure the material is not sticking to the bottom.